The first indication that something was seriously wrong appeared when my phone began flooding with messages. The moment I told my parents that I had lost everything, my mother didn't text to ask if I was okay. Instead, she wrote, "We need to talk privately." My name is Alyssa Grant, 32, founder of a tech startup I built from the ground up. It came from late nights, strained friendships, and many missed holidays. I believed that selling it for $20 million would finally bring peace. Instead, it created distance. The moment I told my parents the lie my lawyer advised me to share, everything around me shifted. My father didn't call to check on me. He sent a short message, "Don't come home. We can't afford your recklessness." Recklessness? They had never even asked how I managed to build the company. But what worried me most wasn't what they said. It was what they left unsaid. My lawyer, Simon, had warned me earlier, "Do it tonight. Then watch who reaches out first." At the time, I didn't fully understand. That changed when my cousin Emma sent me a screenshot at 3 a.m. It showed a private family group chat I was never meant to see. At the top was a message from my mother that immediately unsettled me. "This is our chance." My hands shook as I looked at the screenshot Emma secretly forwarded. My mother's words were clear. "This is our chance." A chance for what? Below her message, other relatives responded quickly, almost like people circling an opportunity. Uncle Ray wrote, "If she's broke, she's useless. Pull the paperwork before she realizes." My father added, "We move fast. Don't let her know about the trust." My sister Brooke responded, "I told you she'd crash. She never deserved any of it." A trust. The term felt like a shock. I had built a $20 million company from nothing, yet the people who raised me were discussing plans behind my back. Plans involving something I never knew existed. Simon's earlier warning came back to me. Your parents aren't celebrating your success. They're calculating it. Follow my instructions and you'll see who they really are. He was right, because at exactly 7:14 a.m. my mother called. There was no concern in her voice, no comfort, only a tone that sounded prepared and unfamiliar. "Alyssa, sweetheart, we need you to come by the house today. There are things we need to handle." She didn't know I had already seen the messages. She didn't know I was aware of the trust. And she definitely didn't know I wasn't planning to come alone because Simon had already told me what would likely happen next. That realization unsettled me. As I drove toward my parents' house, a tight knot formed in my stomach while Simon's words repeated in my mind. The moment they believe you're broke, their intentions will become clear. Don't react. Just observe. Observe. Easy advice to give, but difficult to follow when betrayal moves through you like poison. My childhood home looked smaller than I remembered, or perhaps I had simply grown beyond the version of myself that once searched for their approval. When I stepped inside, the atmosphere felt tense, as if everyone had rehearsed what would happen. My mother didn't hug me, didn't touch me, and didn't even offer a chair. She simply closed the door and said quietly, "We don't have much time. Your father is getting the documents." My father returned carrying a thick envelope with my name printed clearly on the front. He avoided eye contact and showed no expression. "Sign these," he said. "It's better for everyone if you do." Better for everyone except me. Brooke sat on the couch with her arms crossed, smiling in a way that suggested she had been waiting for this moment. My mother added, "You made a serious mistake. You always do." The envelope felt unusually heavy in my hands, heavier than it should have been. Something about it felt wrong. As I opened it, one line stood out immediately, and the words caused my vision to blur with shock. Revocation of beneficiary rights. My own family was removing me completely. The air left my lungs in a slow, cold breath. Revocation of beneficiary rights. They didn't even try to soften the message. My father finally looked directly at me, his eyes calm and controlled, as if this situation wasn't betrayal but simply a business decision. "Alyssa, you're unstable right now. You've made reckless choices. The trust needs protection." Protection from me? My mother stepped closer and lowered her voice, speaking with a tone that sounded detached. "If you sign it now, we won't enforce the clause that penalizes irresponsible heirs." The irresponsible heir clause. Several formal words that pointed to one clear assumption. They believed I was broke, and they wanted every cent secured away from me before I could claim any part of it. Brooke, of course, added her own comment. Honestly, Liz, you should be thankful. You're terrible with money. You lost $20 million in what, a weekend? The lie they believed, the story Simon told me to share, had clearly worked. Then came the moment of public embarrassment that followed immediately. Brooke raised her phone and began recording while saying loudly, "Look at her. The millionaire who lost everything. Dad, send it to the family group." They all laughed. Everyone except me. Because behind them, the door quietly opened and Simon walked into the room. The laughter stopped the moment Simon stepped into the living room. He wore a clean, tailored suit, carried a leather briefcase, and his expression remained completely controlled. My father straightened immediately. My mother's smile froze halfway. Brooke slowly lowered her phone, suddenly uncertain. Simon spoke in a calm, measured tone. "Good morning. I see you've already begun without me." My mother's voice shook slightly as she asked, "Why are you here?" Simon placed his briefcase on the table and answered simply, "Because Alyssa didn't lose $20 million. She followed my legal instructions to reveal the truth about this family's intentions." The room fell into silence, heavy and unmistakable. My father's jaw tightened. Truth about what? Simon calmly slid a folder across the table, much thicker than the envelope they had given me. Inside were bank transfers, emails, notarized letters, each carrying their signatures. "Alyssa," Simon explained, "your parents attempted to redirect the family trust into a private account under your sister's name. If you had signed those papers today, everything your grandmother created would have been permanently moved beyond your reach." My mother's face turned pale. That's taken out of context." Simon tilted his head slightly. "And the clause you mentioned, the one about penalizing irresponsible heirs. I wrote that clause. It applies to fraudulent trustees, not beneficiaries." Brooke swallowed, and the color slowly drained from her face. In that moment, shock turned into understanding, and understanding became resolve. My response would not be loud or emotional. It would be legal, careful, and precise. Simon looked toward me and gave a small nod. That was my signal to speak. I took a steady breath, preparing myself as my parents watched closely. Their expressions shifted between anger, worry, and calculation. They still seemed to believe they could explain their way out of the situation, but that was no longer possible. I placed the unsigned envelope they had given me on the coffee table. "No," I said calmly. "You'll be signing something today." Brooke laughed briefly. "You can't force us." Simon raised his hand slightly. "Actually, she can." He opened his briefcase and removed another set of documents, clean, formal, and very clear in their purpose. "Here," he said, addressing my parents, "is the formal resignation of your trustee rights, effective immediately. If you refuse to sign, it will trigger a full court audit of every account you've managed over the past 15 years. My father's expression hardened. "You wouldn't dare." Simon met his stare without hesitation. "Try me." I watched their confidence break apart in stages. First anger, then fear, and finally the understanding that their own actions had trapped them. My mother's hands trembled as she looked down at the documents. "Alyssa, please, we were only trying to steal from me," I interrupted quietly, "to humiliate me, to record me while I failed." Brooke stepped forward. "You can't take everything from us." I turned toward her slowly. "I'm not taking everything," I replied, "only what was never yours." The room grew silent again. My parents slowly reached for the pens. At that moment, Simon leaned toward me and spoke quietly. "Alyssa, be ready. They're not finished fighting." My father slammed the pen onto the table before signing, staring at me with a level of anger I remembered from childhood. "You think you're punishing us?" he said harshly. "You're destroying this family." I remained calm. "The family was destroyed the moment money mattered more than your daughter." Brooke stepped between us, her voice beginning to crack with desperation. "Liz, please. If Mom and Dad lose control of the trust, I lose my stipend, my condo, my car. I can't afford that." There it was, the truth finally spoken. Not love or loyalty, but dependence. Simon crossed his arms and addressed the room. "You should all understand that Alyssa is now the sole trustee. Any discretionary payments will be entirely her decision." My family's faces changed at the same moment. My mother grabbed my wrist, her voice shaking with emotion. "We raised you. We gave you everything." I gently pulled my arm away. "You gave me life, not love, and certainly not loyalty." My father tried one final tactic, a warning disguised as advice. If you do this, you'll regret it. Money can't replace family. I looked at him steadily. Neither can betrayal. With their hands unsteady, defeated and cornered, they signed the papers and surrendered their trustee rights. Just as I believed it was finished, Simon leaned closer and spoke quietly. Alyssa, there's one more thing you haven't seen yet. Something your grandmother left specifically for you. The room went still. One last secret remained. Simon reached into his briefcase again and removed a small velvet envelope, aged and ivory-colored, sealed carefully with wax. My heartbeat faltered. This, he said gently, was given to me by your grandmother, with instructions to deliver it only after your parents revealed their true intentions. My mother suddenly moved forward. No, she doesn't need to see that. I raised my hand, and for the first time in my life, she stopped. I broke the wax seal. Inside was a handwritten letter and a single key. My grandmother's flowing handwriting felt almost like guidance. Alyssa, I always knew your strength would come from enduring what others tried to break within you. Everything I built now belongs to you, but this key represents the real legacy. Beneath the letter was another document, property deeds to a private estate in Vermont worth more than the trust itself. My grandmother had anticipated this. She had seen the possibility of betrayal years before I ever noticed it. My father's voice cracked. Mother left that to you? For the first time, I felt nothing toward them. No anger, no sadness, only distance. I folded the letter, placed the key into my pocket, and stood. This family ended itself, I said quietly. I'm simply walking away from what's left. As I stepped outside the house, the morning sunlight spreading across the driveway, Simon spoke beside me. You didn't lose $20 million, Alyssa. You gained your freedom. I nodded, taking a steady breath at last. And I'm never allowing anyone to benefit from my silence again.